Wonderful. All right, so what I'm envisioning is that we will have each of the prospective employers give a little overview of what their organization is and what types of jobs they offer. And then we will, and that should maybe take about half an hour if each person has about 3 minutes. So just be cognizant of the time so that we can make sure there's time for the networking component where we'll open up breakout rooms for each of you and then, or each employer, and then you can jump around from different breakout rooms as if you're going from table to table in the career fair and have those conversations. And then I will also want to get everyone's contact information. So I will share a Google Doc in a little bit so that we can get everyone who's here. So then we have emails to be able to share more jobs with as well. All right, so I'm trying to get up my list of the order of people. 1 minute. Here we go. Now it looks like I have CNMI DFW going first. Josh is here, right? And Daisha. Do we have Saipan folks here as well?
Yes.
Amanda and Leroy. Okay.
Yes.
What order? I'll let you guys choose which order you want to go in. I'm Amanda, Leroy. So like the Saipan folks or the Rhoda folks first.
Oh well, Saipan probably because it's larger. So
it's always the case. So Amanda and Leroy, do you want to start with an overview of what types of jobs you have at DFW, and maybe you can tell a little bit about yourselves and your background that got you into that position, and then if you have any openings right now.
Okay. Hi, so I'm Leroy Sablon. I'm the assistant wildlife biologist here at CMI DFW. So my background is actually with entomology. But I'm currently working with insect abundance prey studies for the Marinus swiftlet and the Pacific sheath-tailed bats.
And I'm Amanda Santos. I'm also an assistant wildlife biologist here at DFW. My background is I actually got a degree in natural resource management at NMC and a fisheries and wildlife science bachelor's degree at Oregon State University. And the projects I currently work on is mist netting birds, catching, releasing, putting bands in them, tagging them, and doing a lot of observational studies. So the types of positions that we have here are like the wildlife biologist, assistant wildlife biologist, which what we are, wildlife specialists, and wildlife technicians. And yeah.
And do you know if you have any open positions right now?
No, not at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Do you hire quite when should people think that there might be another hire? Do you hire every year, every couple of years? How do they find about this? Know about this?
It depends on what position is opened. We should be hiring a wildlife technician, or like a job posting should be open up for that. Hopefully soon, because we do need one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll move over to Josh and Daisha.
So we're quite similar here on Rhoda. Saipan is our parent office, so we do have some temporary positions coming up just for a few months when we do the Rhoda island-wide. So there'll be, if you're good at trail cutting and identifying birds and plants, and that'd be a great little thing to get on your CV. It's only for a couple of months, but it is a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but it is also a lot of fun. You learn quite a lot. As Amanda was saying, that they don't currently have an opening, but they are supposed to have another technician. They're actually understaffed at the moment, but you basically just got to keep an eye on when OPM starts advertising those positions. Daisha and myself are pushing to get a third technician here on Rhoda. So if you've come over and you've worked on the island-wide temporarily, that kind of gets your foot in the door. You can also try volunteering for your local fish and wildlife section. it's not a guarantee that you're going to get a job, but if they get to know you, and then when they do the official, because they always have to do the official advertisement, they can't just hire someone existing who has been volunteering, but you not only do you have that work experience, but you've already shown to the agency that you've been volunteering at how well you work. And that, you know, we always like going with a known quantity over a random toss up that we're kind of hoping that they're going to be good. So don't underestimate the value of volunteering. Obviously, you can't do that forever because you've got bills to pay, but even if it's on one project temporarily for a few months or a few weeks, that's well worth it, or every other weekend. It's worth giving that a shot. What we're really looking for is we'd love to have more Chamorros taking over the wildlife position via the jobs that we currently have. And Amanda and Leroy have got BSCs, and I'm peer pressuring Amanda as much as I can for her to do a master's so she can get upgraded. And if you enter into the DFW system and you become like an assistant wildlife biologist with a BSc, most of the time your senior management will be very positive and pushing for you to maybe do a master's while you're actually working. So whatever wildlife projects you've got going, you could write that up as a master's. You've got to do your coursework and everything, but having a paid job while you're doing your master's is a great opportunity and well worth pursuing if you want to go up the line. And that's about it.
Cool. Thank you, Josh. And Daisha, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention that while the position is not posted currently, DFW on Saipan is looking for an outreach coordinator, a public education and outreach coordinator. So if hacking around in the jungle is not your thing and you're more interested in the human side of wildlife restoration, we are looking for interested applicants in outreach position. So if that's something you're into, I guess contact Amanda or Leroy or Josh or myself, and we'll try to put you in contact with the right person.
Wonderful. Yeah, and if you're interested, you can also go into their room after this and chat with them a little bit more about the position, the requirements, and how to apply and such. So
sure.
Thanks, Daisha. So we'll move on to Shane Sires. USDA APHIS Wildlife Services National Wildlife Research Center, right?
Yeah, and I had put together a couple slides, but you have the screen sharing disabled. Can you undo that?
Is that working now? Yep.
How about that? You see that? Okay. Yeah, so as Hulder said, I'm Shane Sires. I'm going to chat with you a bit about career opportunities with USDA Wildlife Services on Guam. So the mission of Wildlife Services is to provide federal leadership and expertise to resolve wildlife conflicts and to allow people and wildlife to coexist. So this basically what we do is we conduct animal damage management activities. And we do this for the protection of people, agriculture, and wildlife. Now, in Guam, the Wildlife Services Guam State Office has the operational program where they have about 68 employees. A lot of their work is brown tree snake control and interdiction. And by interdiction, we mean preventing the spread, accidental spread of brown tree snakes off of Guam onto other islands. A lot of this is done through snake detection dogs. I'm sure you all know about the snake sniffing dogs in the cargo terminals. Also, Wildlife Services has been involved in rodent eradication. They did a previous rodent eradication on Cocos Island. A lot of what they do is airport hazard management, and that's what they kind of refer to as BASH, which is bird airstrike hazard. So they keep birds away from airport runways to prevent hitting aircraft. They also do ungulate control in particular areas. That's feral pig and deer control for conservation and safety, mostly on some military lands. But there's also some pig control out in the public areas as well. And they also do problem bird control and feral cat and dog control. Now their positions are typically Some of the more advanced positions are what they call wildlife biologist positions. That's a 486 series in the federal government. Those require a bachelor's and a very sort of particular distribution of course credits to meet all the requirements of being a 486 biologist. Most of the employees they have are what are called biological science technicians. So they don't require a degree. Their ideal qualifications are some experience with basic wildlife damage control techniques, experience with identifying Mariana Island wildlife species, an understanding of principles of wildlife ecology and management, and basic computer operations experience. They do expect to be hiring 8 GS4 biological science technicians by the end of the calendar year. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, look for the email address. It's going to be on the last slide. Now on the Wildlife Services National Wildlife Research Center side of the house, which is where I work, we develop and test tools to remove brown tree snakes, prevent their spread, protect natural resources and economic resources, and in order to restore native species. So I work on the USDA NWRC side of the house, and currently we've only got 2 of us working for NWRC on Guam. That's myself. I'm what they call a research grade scientist. That requires a PhD. We have occasionally hired biologists in the past. Those require a bachelor's, and those typically are at the GS 7 to 11 position. But the only other current NWRC person we have right now is Rachel Volstead, who's a biological science technician. And we hire those at the GS 4 to 7 level. But most of our staffing on Guam is hired through cooperative agreements with the Research Corporation of the University of Guam. And those positions can range anywhere from a postdoctoral researcher, which requires a PhD, to a project manager, which requires a master's. But most of our staff are full-time research associates, either 1s or 2s. Those require a bachelor's of science. And then we do hire some part-time research assistants as well. Those don't require a degree, but typically do require either some level of experience or some level of college credits working towards a biology degree. So with that, I say if you have any interest, you can, if you're interested in the Wildlife Services Operations Program, jot down this email address for Jeff Flores. If you're interested in the research side of the house, take down my email address. You can always get in touch with me, and I'll be hanging out for the breakout sessions in the USDA room. So with that, I thank you, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Shane. I just posted the a link to Google Sheets on the chat, and so please, employers and employees, fill out your information, and feel free to, if you wanted to like add Jeff Flores' information on there too, Shane. That's a way that we can make sure students could get that email address as well. We move now over to Tony Mazarek from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Thanks, Huldra. Hi, everyone. I'm Tony Mazarek from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in the Ecological Services Office. Shane set the stage really well for some of these federal positions, but he did it much more thoroughly than I can. But he put up his mission, and I think I was going to share that as well. So our mission is to work with others to conserve, protect, and enhance fish, wildlife, and plants and their habitats for the continuing benefit of the American people. So that's really broad and sounds fantastic. And so what that means for careers can vary quite a bit across the country. So just by way of background, I shared with Huldra and may have a chance during this to share some very broad information about different career opportunities within the Fish and Wildlife Service. And, you know, maybe that can be done if you're interested on your own time, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about how we're structured out in the Mariana Islands, and just some of the other offices that you might know about within the Fish and Wildlife Service. So again, I'm in the Ecological Services in the Guam office with only 4 other people here, and then we have another biologist on Saipan. but we are based out of the Pacific Islands Fish and Wildlife Office, which is in Honolulu. And then we also have offices on other Hawaiian islands where there are about 80 of us. So those of us in the Marianas work solely on Mariana Islands projects, but we also get help from some folks who are based in Hawaii. And so just in thinking about careers, potentially, we've got quite a few people in the Hawaii office that do support us and do work on projects out here. So just because folks aren't necessarily located in the Marianas doesn't mean that they're not working on projects out here. And then I just wanted to say a little bit more to distinguish, because you might have heard about some of the different positions within Fish and Wildlife. So the main focus of the ecological services is, there's a few things, but environmental reviews of federal projects and working with listing and recovery of threatened and endangered species are our priorities. And so we are often not out in the field doing a lot of the fun stuff and getting to see a lot of these plants and animals. But a lot of it is review. And so knowledge of species and systems and partners is really critical in what we do in building partnerships, as I mentioned in the mission. So just real quickly, I don't foresee any positions open in ecological services in the near future. We have had recent interns and have one coming in, which that's a great stepping stone, the Directorate Fellowship Program, to get careers in the federal service. And some of the information that I can share later, or Haldra can, is in there. I do just want to quickly mention that there are some other offices that you might have heard of, or other branches of Fish and Wildlife. So the refuge system, and there is the Guam National Wildlife Refuge, and also some of the law enforcement and wildlife inspectors you may know about. And real quickly, I don't want to speak for the refuge system, but I did reach out to the superintendent, and there will be a position with the Guam, based on Saipan, actually with the, I believe it's a ranger position. She doesn't know the timing of that, but I don't know, I would guess in the next year or so, for visitor services operations at that monument based in Saipan. And I can help put you in contact with that person if you are interested. And I think I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Tony. And I have those files. I was trying to just add them to the chat, and that wasn't working for some reason today, but I will get that figured out in the next couple of minutes and be able to share those with folks. Thanks. And then Mary Joy Viernes, I actually don't know how to say your last name, Mary Joy. Maybe you can correct me in a second, and then Charlene Hopkins.
Yeah, no, you pronounced it correctly, Viernes. I have a slide to share.
You should be able to share screen. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay. All right, is that sharing? No.
Not yet. No, it is. Yep, that's
Okay.
it.
Cool. Hoppaday, I'm Mary Joy. I'm with the United States Geological Survey with the Brown Tree Snake Project. And so what our agency does is that we do snake control tools, interdiction methods, and interdiction methods meaning like we're preventing snakes from going.
Sorry, we just got back to your email. You might want to switch back to the PowerPoint.
Oh. Okay, let's stop sharing that. Let's go back to.
Do you have two screens? I feel like the two screen Zoom monitor issues like complicate me all the time.
All right, let's try this again. All right.
Cool, got it.
Got it, okay, cool. So what we do is that we do interdiction methods. And so Shane kind of gave a description on that. We do brown tree snake trapping efforts and that are operational for here on Guam and elsewhere. We do research on the biology and the behavior of brown tree snakes and see how that implications for a landscape scale level control here on Guam. Since brown tree snakes are nocturnals, we conduct nighttime visual surveys to detect them and study their behaviors that way. We also do rapid response. So if there's a snake sighting to a snake-free island, we usually do deployments. Some of the opportunities we have in our team is that which our internship programs are pretty incredible, because I went through this internship program and then worked my way into a biologist. Our internship programs we do through USGS and with the University of Guam. And then we also have opportunities for a full-time biologist position, also with USGS, RCOG cooperators. And so here are some things to gain. There's a lot, we do a lot of projects that where we handle different kinds of animals, and we do trapping efforts, telemetry. So there's a lot to gain through our programs, especially if you would like to pursue and develop your career later on. So this is like a really good stepping stone for anybody. Some of the qualifications that we're looking for is someone who's interested in natural resources, someone who has a good ethics, a willingness to learn, and who can tolerate meticulous data collection. For most of you know that our work is here on Guam, so someone who can tolerate harsh environments here on Guam. We can provide trainings for handling the various animals we study for. And our workload is a mixture of morning, day, night, and sometimes some split shifts. And so if we have some interns who are students, we prioritize school first. So we're willing to accommodate and work around a student with their school schedule. And so if you're interested in the work that we do, or any questions about what we do, feel free to contact Charlene, and she's our supervisory biologist in our team.
Oh. Thank you, Mary Joy. There's a lot of us whose first job on Guam was with the Brown Tree Snake Project, and have now moved on to all sorts of other different programs. But
Yeah.
it's definitely a place for many of us have worked over the years. Thank you. So the next person that I have on this list, I just lost my list, is Henry Fandel. And I don't know if you and Sarah will talk separately or together. I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, I think we'll talk separately. I
Awesome.
will cover the UW, University of Washington field research side of things, and she will take on the San Diego Zoo captive rearing side of things. So I am Henry. I'm the co-PI of the University of Washington's Otter Recovery Project. I want to, well, first, let me clearly state we do have a position open, and we're hoping to wrap up the hiring process soon. So if anybody hears this talk and is interested, please immediately get in touch with us. We're still accepting applications, but again, time is of the essence. So let's go into a little bit about our work, a bit of a background, and then we can get to qualifications and that sort of thing. So the crow population was estimated to be around 1,300 individuals in the early 80s, but has in the time that has passed since then, the population has declined to about 200 individuals at present day. So our group does research that allows us to track the trend in the wild population over time. We do research that resolves an understanding of the factors that have caused the decline, and we actively augment the wild population to try and increase the population. The main bulk of what we do involves nest searching and monitoring those nests. This is going out into the forest every day and hiking around, listening for crows and pursuing them to determine their breeding status. Beyond that, we also capture and mark crows in order to give them individually recognizable bands, so we can collect data on each individual's history of survivorship, their reproductive success, their movements around the island, and their sociality. In order to learn about mortality in a detailed way, we also fix radio transmitters on young crows, and we can use these signals emitted by the radio transmitters to detect whether the crow has perished remotely. So we check on these radio transmitters every 12 hours, early in the morning and then in the evening after sunset, in order to collect good data, high quality data on carcasses. And then beyond our research, we do a lot of outreach and engagement with the community. This is a huge portion of our project. This takes many forms. It's usually in the form of organizing presentations at schools or hosting booths at agricultural fairs or at fiestas, participating in community beach cleanups, those types of things. This is absolutely a part of our work. So we have a huge range of positions within our project, ranging from entry-level technician positions that don't require any prior field experience to positions that require masters or PhDs. But our position that's open right now is a technician position. Qualifications for this type of position are pretty flexible. The main qualifications actually, in a similar manner to the position that Mary Joy was just talking about, requires mainly a strong interest in engaging with, learning more about, or beginning work in wildlife here in the Marianas. Good vision is a must as well, because we're reading color bands through forest canopy and foliage from far away. That's a major part of our job. And then a tolerance for, or even an appetite for hard work, physically demanding work, hiking through the forest in challenging field conditions. Those are really the major qualifications. Of course, demonstrating experience in conservation or demonstrating like a passion for wildlife work with work history in a related field makes candidates stronger, but is not a requirement. And then, yeah, again, we really value the opportunity to grant early career biologists access to the field. And across all of our positions, our project prefers to hire applicants from the Marianas rather than elsewhere or abroad. I am going to put my email address and Sarah's email address in the chat. So if anybody's interested, please reach out, and we're both going to be around as well in these breakout rooms to answer more questions.
Thanks, Henry. And Sarah?
Yep. Can you guys hear me now? Cool. Hi, so my name is Sarah Fagree, and I work with Henry. I'm the director of the University of Washington's portion of the recovery project, but I also work part-time for the San Diego Zoo. Again, here on Rhoda, it's the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, but the program that we work with is on Rhoda rearing crows for release. And so today I'm going to primarily address the zoo portion of the career aspect of our project. And so while the portion Henry addressed was the field work, a lot of hiking, monitoring birds in the wild. The zoo portion has a similar requirement in terms of interest in animals, interest in conservation, in recovery of endangered species. But if spending long days hiking in the jungle is not so much your thing, and you're more interested in the animal care aspect, that's where the zoo work can be a really good fit. It's essentially rearing these animals from egg through the chick stage into independent adults, providing them with opportunities to learn to forage in our large aviaries on the facility, and then releasing them into the wild. And I'm going to try and share my screen and share just a few minutes of a video that we prepared, which has some images of hand feeding chicks. These are perhaps like the more glamorous moments of animal care, you know, where you're like feeding adorable babies with tweezers. You know, full disclosure, a lot of the work is like doing dishes and chopping up bird food and cleaning cages, but it is also a really amazing opportunity to see these animals hatch from eggs and grow from these little pink jelly beans into, you know, big crows that you then release into the jungle. So let me see if I can share my screen here. Share.
I don't think we have audio.
No audio?
When you go to
I
share
can-
screen on the bottom left, just do share computer sound as well. So I'd like unshare screen and then go back to share screen again, and you should be able to get
Okay.
the audio. Once you do share screen,
Share.
just look on the bottom left. I think you'll see.
Share sound.
Yeah, share sound. That's what it is.
Works by effectively doubling the productivity of aga pairs from which eggs are collected. Aga can nest nearly year-round and usually re-nest multiple times after failure. By collecting the first clutches of a breeding season to rear in captivity, the wild pair is then free to rear a second set of offspring on their own. Our program raises the captive aga in large aviaries here on Rhoda until they are 1 to 2 years old enough to breed, and also old enough to be past the stage of high juvenile mortality associated with the poorly understood inflammatory response. Rearing young aga begins with incubating eggs, then progresses as the egg is moved into a temperature-controlled hatcher when the chick begins breaking out of its shell. Chicks work hard during the hatching process. As they work to get out of the egg, the blood vessels attaching them to the egg membrane diminish, and the young birds become dependent on parental care. Our program has been highly successful in hatching eggs and rearing nestlings to independence. Out of 51 viable eggs and nestlings that our program has taken in, 94% have been successfully reared to independence. Once their eyes open, chicks are fed with puppets behind one-way mirrors. This prevents young aga from imprinting on humans and also gives captive nestlings exposure to visual imagery of their own species. Avoiding imprinting is critical.
All right, let's stop the share. Oops. Gotta figure out how to stop the video. Okay, so that was just a quick peek at what it looks like to be hatching eggs and rearing these young birds. The zoo's main hiring needs are with technicians, and these are, again, can be like early career biologists, anyone with an interest. They're considered volunteered positions, but they are paid and include housing and shared vehicles on Rhoda. But they're paid at a lower rate. The pay for the zoo technicians is $800 a month, and then often volunteers that stick with the program and really enjoy it for a year or more would have the opportunity to apply for a staff position with the zoo, which is a full-time benefited position. And the zoo program is not currently hiring technicians, but we believe we'll be hiring again in January. So I strongly encourage anyone who's interested to get in touch, and we can get a hold of you when we have open positions.
Thank you, Sarah. And Henry, yeah, the AGA project is an amazing one to work on. And also there's been a huge number of people who have come through that project as well. And living on Rhoda is idyllic. It's a wonderful spot to live. I'm gonna briefly just mention the Ecology of Bird Loss project, which is the project that I've been running out here for 15-ish years. And we often hire people at a bunch of different levels. So our research compares the Guam to Saipan, Tinian, and Rota, looking at the impact of bird loss on the forests of Guam and studying the importance and role of birds on Saipan, Tinian, and Rota. We've also done some work with Finihi and pigs on Guam and rats and kind of lots of different things around native forest ecology and conservation. We currently have a project on Anderson Air Force Base on the Micronesian starling, where we're understanding how the starling, the Sali, is persisting with the snake population there, and discovering just how many snakes and cats are eating those birds, but they're still managing to hang on. It's pretty amazing. We don't have any open positions in that project right now, but the types of positions are like biology technicians that usually you have an undergraduate degree and sometimes a master's degree for the technician positions, and the pay is about $15 an hour, something like that. And they're a good kind of starter position to be able to then get into the next, to then kind of work and figure out what your next role or next job might be. We will, not this summer, but next summer, we will have positions for high school students that will be able to work, do internships on the project, probably on Saipan, Rota, and Guam. And then we also will have positions for undergraduates, summer REUs, and research experience for undergraduates, as well as research experience for teachers through on Saipan, Tinian, or Saipan, Rota, and Guam next summer. So keep an eye out for that. I also love to mentor students but at the master's degree level and PhD level. And so if you're interested in potentially interested in graduate school, come to the grad school fair next week, and we can talk more about the opportunities for graduate school. And then I think, there are eventually some positions, or there will be some positions for postdocs on the project on our project later on. So if you have a PhD and want to still do research on kind of ecology of the forest birds and as pollinators and seed dispersers, that's going to come up in a couple of years from now. We'll have a postdoc position. And then we often need crew leaders. I would love to have a longer term crew leader who is based out here, who's just really good at managing things, managing projects and managing like people and just keeping things organized. And so that's something that I'm always on the lookout for. That would be more of a longer term permanent position down the road. So I will have a breakout room too, and you can chat with me about ecology of bird loss project positions. And we have Suzanne Medina and Diane Weiss to talk about Guam Division of Aquatic and Wildlife Resources.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Yes, great. So I'm Suzanne. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here, and I'm here to talk about our Division of Aquatic and Wildlife Resources, just the wildlife side of it. We're a division with the Department of Agriculture, and our mission statement basically is just to manage the resources for future generations. We're kind of the equivalent to a state fishing agency, and our funding comes from 3 sets of grants. We have our endangered species funding, and we basically have 2 programs under that. And they're actually recovery programs for our cocoa and our CHIC. We have wildlife restoration funding, and we've got various projects under that with the Sali, the Tzatzakwa, the Palatat, which are the Micronesian things, the island swiftlets, and the Mariana moorhen. We do annual bird surveys that have been ongoing with our office since like the 1960s. We've kind of dipped in some Finihi stuff. We're just doing incidental observations with Finihi, but we are planning up a project working possibly with Josh and possibly hiring someone on as a Finihi biologist. We also do game management as well too, and hunter ed. We have our 3rd grants are the state wildlife grants, and it covers everything else. The restoration one is feathers and fins, the endangered species, feathers and furs, I'm sorry, fins, no, feathers and fur, Endangered species are, of course, the endangered species, the recovery programs, and the SWIG grant, the State Wildlife Grants, covers kind of everything else. We do butterflies and turtles and other stuff. This is our current list of our projects. It's a pretty darn big list. We've got a lot going on with our projects right now. So yeah. We also have OIA money, and that's usually outreach and stuff like that. So we hire technicians and biologists here. Starting with our technicians, we require at least a high school diploma, and also an interest in wildlife. Sometimes we will have technicians come on board, and we hire, and they finish either they're still in college and they're finishing their degree, or they have a bachelor's degree, but they're getting their foot in the door with agency, and then we hire them on as a biologist, either when the degree is complete, or we promote them to a biologist once we're ready to do that. A position is open or something. We also have 3 levels of biologists, biologist 1, 2, and 3. The biologist 1 is an entry level position, and that's when you come straight from college to working with us. The bio 2 is you have to have at least 2 years experience or a master's degree, and the bio 3 is at least 3 years experience, master's degree, or even a PhD if a PhD. We do everything. Sarah's talking about captive breeding. We do captive breeding for our cocoa. We do that for our tick as well. And then we also do a lot of field surveys. And we do manage invasive species. We do predator control in support of the endangered species recovery program. So whether it's here on Guam, or we have a project on Rhoda with the we cat control on Rhoda as well too. We also we encourage partnership for students for master programs. We've had some students come to us with proposals, and we will fund their works for them to get a master's degree. So we've done that with a couple of students as well. So we're very open to that. Positions coming up. Well, we're always looking for people. I think I have an internet connection unstable. Okay, we're always looking for people. It's a challenge getting hired with the government of Guam. Our technicians are very vocal about the fact that they're not going to be around much longer, because there's a lot of retirements coming up in our technician department. So we are very eager to get technicians honored even now, and also biology positions. If there's anything that I spoke about that you're interested in, please don't. Or even if you've got some ideas of your own as well too. As I said, we do, there's the possibility of funding master's programs. So we also have a program that a position, or if you're a University of Guam student, there's an ELSA program over there that's to do work with the Cocoa Project. So if anyone wants some work right now, you can go to the ELSA office of OG, and you can start work probably next week with our Cocoa Project. It's going to be data archiving, but we're working with birds in captivity as well too. So, and possibly in the field, but we need Coco's Island to get up and running like that. So
the other one is Bio 3 for game management.
And Bio 3 for game management as well too. So we haven't had a game management person in our office in a very long time. We've started up with our hunter education program, but we would like a game management biologist as well too. So also, well, a really big one that's coming up around the corner is our CHIC program. We anticipate starting releases of CHIC in April of next year. We wanted to release on Cocos Island first because we believe they should be on Guam first, but as you know, we've got the snake problem out there. So it looks like the first releases will be on Palmyra. if anyone is interested, we really want folks from our office or folks from Guam to be involved with that, as opposed to hiring a PhD from England or something like that. So if there's any folks on Guam that are interested in spending lots of time off of Guam working with CHIC, please let me know. And that will lead up to future releases in the FSM. But this is going to require having a DAR person that's not necessarily going to be working in the office, but their field work is be in another location. So that's a big project coming up right now that we're interested in.
Monitor lizard.
We have to
lizard evaluation as well too. Which,
sorry to interrupt you, but we need to get to breakout rooms. And actually, there's one more person. So thanks so much. That if folks are if folks are interested in DAWR, and there sounds like there's even maybe some other positions too, make sure you go to their breakout room and you can hear a bit more there. Doug Page from the Institute of Wildlife Services is the last person, I think.
Hi, close enough. Institute for Wildlife Studies is an organization. We're based out of Northern California. We started work back on Rhoda in 2014 doing feral cat removal stuff, and that kind of branched into some rat work that was for my master's and kind of kept going. And that was Suzanne mentioning, she does some funding for master's programs. That's actually how I got started there. But we mostly do invasive vertebrates, and we've got some projects up on the horizon, a lot of camera work stuff, invasive ungulates we're hoping to get some funding for, and then some stuff on Cocos Island, again, through DAR, doing monitor lizard stuff, and that's all camera work. So if you're interested in doing any kind of camera trapping, population trapping, invasive species studies, we're always looking for people who are from the islands to stay local, keep it local, and kind of get people into biology who are from there so they can take it over rather than us coming out to do that sort of stuff. Nothing that we're hiring for right at the moment, but you know, I always keep a list of contacts. If anybody ever reaches out to me, first thing I do before we even post is go down that list and let everybody know. So please, if you're interested in any of those things, let me know.
Awesome. Thank you. Did I miss anyone that wanted to say that's an employer? If I did, let me know, and I'll give you a minute here. Okay. All right, I am adding the rooms now. 1 second. So it's Diane. So I'm going to open the rooms that I have, and I'm going to keep adding rooms. So feel free as I add rooms to jump into those, and you should be able to see who's there first. And you might be able to change the name of your room if you're the employer. Go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'll do that as I create them. All right. So feel free to jump into one, leave, come out, go into the other ones. You can come back into the main room. And I think we'll go longer than 11 because that only gives you 6 minutes. So hopefully the employers can stay on for a little bit longer. We can try to go.
You muted yourself, Heldra.
No, can anyone else hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so hopefully we'll go a little bit longer than 11 so that we can hear you.
Sorry, remind me where I find the rooms.
I'm going to open them in just a second. So, and then folks will be able to join them and jump between them. And if you have any questions, come back out to the main room and I can answer your questions and help you navigate. And hopefully we'll stay open until folks have had all their questions answered in maybe another 20 minutes or so, something like that. Thanks.